True horror story, the dead frequency. In 2003, a forgotten emergency frequency was accidentally activated across parts of the Midwest. 447.55 megahertz. The signal was never meant for public use. It belonged to a Cold War-era military broadcast system known as Project Nightglass, a network designed to transmit evacuation orders in the event of nuclear war. But that night, it didn't transmit orders. It transmitted a voice. People who had old scanners, ham radios, or analog TVs began hearing a woman crying, whispering coordinates between sobs. The coordinates led nowhere. Middle of cornfields, dried lakes, abandoned hospitals. The voice would then pause and say, open quote, he's walking again, close quote. Within 48 hours, 9 people who'd listened for more than a few minutes were found dead, either from heart failure or unexplained neurological collapse. Their brains showed patterns identical to those seen in victims of high-frequency acoustic trauma. When the FCC traced the signal, it came from a decommissioned weather station in southern Illinois, one that had been offline since 1987 and had no power supply. Investigators who entered the building reported hearing the crying voice live through their static meters. The last transmission ever recorded before the channel was permanently jammed came from a ranger station 40 miles away. The log reads, open quote, 013 a.m., he's here. Screaming, screaming him. Broadcast ends. Close quote. Every year since, around the same week in October, ham radio operators claimed to hear faint sobbing and that same whisper, open quote, tune it right, he's still walking. Close quote. No one knows who he was. No one has ever found the transmitter. True scary mystery, the voice in cabin D, the vanished flight of 739. In 1962, Flying Tiger Line Flight 739 took off from Guam, carrying 93 soldiers and 11 crew. Destination Saigon. They never made it. Radar contact vanished somewhere over the Pacific. There was no distress call, no explosion, no debris, nothing. The U.S. military searched for weeks. All they found was silence. But the silence spoke back. It began when a radio operator in the Philippines received a signal 3 nights after the disappearance, faint, filled with static. A woman's voice whispered, Cabin D, still here? Can you hear me? She repeated it 5 times. The signal cut off. No one could identify the frequency. It didn't match any known aviation band. The most chilling part? Flight 739 didn't have a Cabin D. Months later, fishermen reported strange lights moving in the ocean where the flight disappeared. Bright, circular, almost playful. Divers later said their compasses spun wildly near the spot, and they heard muffled tapping from the seafloor like Morse code repeating, D, D, D. Families of the lost passengers still claim to receive phantom phone calls late at night, faint breathing, a flicker of static, then that same whisper, Cabin D. True scary mystery, the crying man of room 217, the hotel that wouldn't forget. There's a small town in Colorado where the mountain fog clings to the roofs like ghosts who missed checkout. And there's a hotel there, grand, old, and breathtakingly eerie, built long before The Shining ever made the mountains famous. Locals whisper about room 217, not because of what happened inside, but because of what happens every time someone stays there. In 1911, a maid named Elizabeth Wilson entered room 217 with a lantern to check the lights. The gas line had leaked. The room exploded, blew her clear across the hall. She survived, but the room didn't. It said the walls began to weep. Plaster ran like wax, and the air reeked of lilac, her perfume. From that day on, guests reported waking to a sound no one can quite describe. A man sobbing, not loud, not pitiful, just a low, rhythmic crying, like grief that never ends. Sometimes he's seen sitting on the edge of the bed in a soaked suit, his eyes sunken, hands trembling. He looks up only once to whisper, open quote, you shouldn't be here. She's still looking for me. Close quote. The hotel tried everything, priests, psychics, even sealing the room. But no matter what they did, the sound always returned. And if you knock twice on the door when the moon is high, the sobbing stops. Then you'll hear a key turning from the inside. They say the man never checked in, but he always checks who knocks.